Welcome everyone, this is CjLiveStyle channel. Now we are back to our new episodes of 2 semi-reality champions and comparison featured by WildRift, League of Legends versus the MobileLegendBangbang. But before that, please like and subscribe to my channel and don't forget to click the bell icon so you will be notified to our new next episode video. Let's do this!
Fortune is a marksman type champion and should be played in the bot lane position, since she is rather immobile and needs a support champion who can protect her in ganks and skirmishes. Her abilities revolve around hunting down her targets and dealing massive burst damage. In this video, you will learn how to use her spells, how to pick a correct rune page, and how to itemize correctly. Miss Fortune's passive ability is Love Tap. This ability amplifies Miss Fortune's first basic attack if she locks onto a new target. It deals 50% to 100% of your total attack damage as bonus physical damage, scaling with your champion level, which means that at level 13 your first basic attack is twice as strong as every subsequent basic attack. Miss Fortune can apply her passive to every single attackable unit in the game, except for the inhibitors and the Nexus. Units with fixed health bars, wards for example, get marked by Love Tap, but they don't take additional damage from it. Hitting the same target over and over cannot reapply Love Tap, which is already a cue that Miss Fortune excels in smaller trades and all-in situations, but not as much in extended duels. Pro tip: Love Tap modifies your basic attack and is not considered a spell by the game, which means that you can get additional healing from lifesteal whenever you mark a new target. But this also means that it will not work with Ravenous Hunter, called Double Up, and it is also a basic attack modifier. It will hit its primary target and then bounce to a second target behind the first one. Double Up will also apply Love Tap to both targets in the same way a basic attack would. If there are multiple potential targets behind the first one, the ability will always bounce to the target closest to the center. The bounce will critically strike its target if the initial hit has killed the first one. But even if the first target doesn't die, the bounce can still crit when you buy crit chance in form of items. However, even if you buy 100% crit chance, the first hit of Miss Fortune's Q can never critically strike. Only the second one. With every skill point you put into this ability, you increase its damage and its mana cost, but most importantly, you significantly lower its base cooldown. Pro tip: in lane, some players will try to outsmart you by moving next to their minions to avoid the Q bounce, but if they do that, just Q them directly. You can even throw some basic attacks into the mix if they overextend to it, called Strut. When Miss Fortune hasn't taken any damage for a few seconds, she will gain a small movement speed boost, which gets even bigger after another couple seconds. This makes it very easy to navigate around the map and to get to your teammates who might need your help. By activating this ability, not only do you get the full movement speed bonus immediately, but also your attack speed will increase massively for a short period of time. Additionally, this ability's cooldown gets decreased by 1.5 seconds every time you apply Love Tap to any unit. So if you can afford to consistently switch targets, you could potentially refresh your attack speed boost before it even expires. Both your movement speed and attack speed bonus will become bigger as you put more skill points into this ability. Pro tip: your movement speed bonus is only lost if you take a direct hit. Therefore, if you get hit while being protected by a shield, you will not lose your movement speed boost. This makes the rune Overheal very strong on Miss Fortune if you have some lifesteal, and also the item Bloodthirster might be an interesting choice in some cases. It slows enemies in an area of effect while dealing magic damage to them at the same time. This ability would be ridiculously overpowered if it didn't cost as much mana. You pay 80 mana for this at rank 1, so if you don't have high mana sustain from runes and items, you should only use this spell very conservatively. There is, however, a Miss Fortune playstyle that entirely revolves around Naked Rain because of the sheer power and utility of this spell. When you put 5 skill points into it, the slow it applies grows from 40% to a monstrous 60%. You also gain 35 extra base damage with each skill point, and the base cooldown decreases. The mana cost of this spell always stays at 80 regardless of rank. Pro tip: whenever you harass your opponents with Make It Rain, you can also try to get a Q bounce on them at the same time. It will be very hard for them to dodge it because they are slowed by such a high amount. What makes Miss Fortune stand out is her ultimate ability, Bullet Time. This spell deals physical damage in a cone and scales extremely well with attack damage. No other AD carry can deal so much damage to multiple targets in such a short time. The mere fact that you have this ability ready will scare the enemy team and cause them to position extra carefully in teamfights. So make sure you don't waste this spell, but also make sure to punish fast and punish hard when they overstep. However, Bullet Time has a huge drawback. While casting, you need to stand still and channel the spell, which means you cannot dodge skill shots and you cannot use basic attacks without interrupting the ability. Also, once you start casting, you can no longer change the direction of your attack. People behind or right next to you won't get hit and can attack you back freely. Therefore, always make sure you are at a good distance to hit the enemy from. Optimally when they are trapped in jungle path or when you are protected by a wall or by teammates. In order to prevent the enemy from simply walking out of your ult, you should use it when they are affected by crowd control abilities. If your teammates can't provide any stuns, use the slow from your E ability Make It Rain. It is better than nothing and might secure kills that you otherwise would have missed. Pro tip: abilities that stun, silence or displace you will interrupt bullet time and put it on cooldown. If you chose a Miss Fortune playstyle that mainly revolves around using your ultimate for massive damage in teamfights, consider buying an Edge of Night for its spell shield active. The spell shield will block the first spell that is thrown at you, which essentially makes it twice as hard to stop you. Now, before we talk about runes and items, I need to tell you about one very odd property of Miss Fortune. She has a highly immobile and hard-hitting assassin form, and she has an extremely nimble and DPS-oriented skirmisher form. Yes, 2 forms. This is of course not indicated by the game, but the playstyles are so vastly different that I actually consider those 2 kinds of Miss Fortune 2 entirely different champions. They require different runes, different items, and even a different ability skill order. Or to be more precise, whether you are piloting an ability-based assassin or an auto-attack based marksman entirely depends on your runes, items and skill order. Consequently, these Miss Fortune archetypes are gradual. You can either play and build her like an assassin, or like a more traditional marksman, or literally anything in between. This is a choice you need to make in champ select and also while the game plays out, whether you are aware of it or not. You, however, want to be aware of this so you can make this choice more deliberately according to the individual game and to your individual playstyle. In the following, you will learn everything you need to know about both the Assassin Miss Fortune and the Skirmisher Miss Fortune. Also, I will tell you about a hybrid variant if you prefer a middle way. So for Assassin Miss Fortune, the easiest yet effective rune page to play looks like this. You want Dark Harvest to reliably scale into the late game and also because it deals damage where it is most relevant. That is, it damages those enemies who are already low on health so you can more easily finish them off. Don't sleep on this rune. Even if it might deal less damage overall compared to other keystones, especially in shorter games, all the damage it deals is highly relevant execute damage. It just makes your all-in potential with your ultimate much scarier. Speaking of your ultimate, as you can see from the rest of the page, we put a lot of emphasis on that ability, taking both minor runes that allow you to cast it more often, Ultimate Hunter and Presence of Mind. In addition to the ult cooldown refund, Presence of Mind also restores your mana with every takedown, which allows you to keep going and going in a teamfight until the very end. This is important because Assassin Miss Fortune without mana is actually quite harmless. Every version of Assassin Miss Fortune needs at least 1 rune that patches your mana pool. There are 3 runes in the game that do this: Mana Flow Band, Biscuit Delivery, and, of course, Presence of Mind. Another advantage when you have presence of mind is that you will always have a good amount of mana to work with after the teamfight is already over. This mana then allows you to push waves and take objectives. Very important, since winning a teamfight is not actually all that decisive if you cannot take an objective immediately after. Moreover, the precision tree gives you access to Legend Bloodline. As I've told you in the ability section of this video, Misfortune scales extremely hard with lifesteal, since both her passive and if you want to go full assassin mode, you cannot afford to actually buy lifesteal in the form of items without sacrificing too much early damage. Itemization for Assassin Misfortune is rather straightforward. The items you want are Yomu's Ghostblade, Dustblade of Drakthar, Lord Dominic's Regards, and Edge of Night. You want all these 4 items as quickly as possible, but it is important to know in which order you need to buy them. I've already listed them in order of importance. The only thing you still need to do is to figure out how early you will need Edge of Night. The spell sheet active of this item is invaluable in some matchups. When there is a Malphite on the enemy team, for example, you must buy Edge of Night for your first or second item latest, so he cannot land his ult on you for free while you try to cast yours. In some cases, you might want to buy Mortal Reminder instead. Namely, when the enemy team has champions that have a lot of healing in combination with extremely high HP, which makes it unlikely that you one-shot them. You don't need to worry as much, since the Assassin Misfortune build will kill them before they even get the opportunity to heal. As far as boots are concerned, you also make your choice depending on the enemy team. If they have AD assassins such as Zed, Talon or Rengar, you need Ninja Tabi. If they are a team full of mages, buy Mercury Treads. If they stack a lot of slows, buy Boots of Swiftness. Some teams meet multiple criteria, but if that's the case, simply itemize against the biggest threat. Unlike other AD carries, Misfortune does not need to buy boots early. You should never upgrade them before finishing your first lethality item. Some players even go so far and don't buy boots on her at all, so they can get their lethality items even more quickly. If you find this idea intriguing, just try it out for yourself. But be careful, if they catch you out of position without boots, you will most likely die. If the game goes extremely long and you get the opportunity to buy a 6th item, you should get Blade of the Ruined King. The percent health damage is physical and therefore makes good use of all your armor penetration. This item is especially nice if there is a tank on the enemy team that you can no longer burst down, but also squishy champions have such high base HP at later levels that Blade of the Ruined King will definitely be worth it. Against squishier teams that threaten you with a lot of burst damage, Guardian Angel might be a better 6th item. The best rune page for playing Misfortune like a more traditional skirmishy AD carry is this one.